Viens-tu les conseils pontoir, mets-tu baisser vos comptoir, pour le cuidado, quenne tole, frontier,
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Margaret Lee, licensed clinical psychologist in California. If you're new to the channel, I create videos about stress, anxiety, love, boundaries, self-growth, topics on psychology that help you gain more insight to create a life with more inner peace and emotional freedom. This week, I'm inviting my friend and colleague, Dr. Akshay Naresh, to cover tips for academic success, especially in the competitive Bay Area. Dr. Naresh is a clinical psychologist in Kaiser Permanente. He specializes in working with young adults, Asian American mental health, and work-life balance. Without further ado, let's hear how Dr. Naresh talk about tips for academic success. Hi Akshay, welcome to Psych Make Easy.
Hey, glad to be here. Thanks for having me, Margaret.
Yeah, thank you. And today I'm inviting Akshay to talk about the academic pressure in the Bay Area and probably other part of the US too, right? As school is starting, a lot of my clients are talking about all the AP classes. So Akshay today is gonna share with us some tips to understand the academic pressure a little bit and how do we succeed in high school.
Thanks, Margaret. I actually organized this as like 8 tips, 8 things that I think would be important for us to look at and consider, especially when looking at not only academic pressure, but what success looks like, what success can look like in high school, and actually beyond high school too. I actually have 8 tips. One of those tips are for parents. So if parents are watching, I got one of these that's directly directed to you, okay? So first tip I have, by the way, in terms of my own background, I feel like I could talk about where I come from too. I actually grew up in the Bay Area. I went to one of the most academically competitive high schools in this area. It was a public high school, super competitive. About 75% of our high school actually was Asian American. So again, there's pros and cons in terms of the community that we created. It was wonderful. At the same time, super academically driven. And I think there was a lot of struggles that I had personally in that high school, but there's a lot of successes I had too. Not academic, but more in terms of my own personal growth. So some of these, I'm coming at it from a standpoint of a psychologist and someone who works in mental health, but a lot of this I'm actually coming to it with my own experience being in a super competitive high school where stress, anxiety was like through the roof. Almost everyone had it, but no one talked about it. So I'm hopeful that some of these things may be helpful for you.
Are you comfortable disclosing what school it is?
I went to a school in Fremont called Mission San Jose High School. Pretty well known, I guess, in this area in terms of high schools.
And having that context, because to compare, I came from a high school called the South Hill High School in Covina, which is, and probably I'll share some of my experience when Akshay is talking about, some of the tips and his experience, because my experience being in high school was totally different from, Akshay's, even though I think we're about the same age, yeah?
I think this is, I want to try and also make this, I love what you said, I love making this a conversation about even our own experiences in high school, because we've had different experiences. I think, like I said before, I've learned so much from my time in high school. First tip I have, and this is something that helped me, and my older brother went to the same high school I went to, and he gave me some tips as well. First one is to avoid comparisons. I know it's one of those things that's easier said than done, but I kind of differentiated 2 different types of pressure that I felt. One is family pressure. Happens all the time. I grew up in an Indian immigrant family. So very, very high academically achieving mindset in the family. Everyone that I know in my family has gone to college, got a university degree, or even an advanced degree. So education was a huge importance on my family, and not only education, but you have to get these sort of grades. Very, very typically stereotypical Indian household, Asian family, right? But I realized that, there was family pressure, but something even more important that I put more weight on was peer pressure. And this wasn't like a peer pressure that you'd see in like those high school movies. It's not like, oh yeah, you should do some drugs, drink. It's a different type of peer pressure that isn't talked about. It's academic pressure, right? So for example, if a friend of mine was taking 5 or 6 APs, there would be like a group of people who'd be like, yeah, well, are you taking this AP? Are you taking that AP? Are you taking this? And I would feel like the odd person out if I said, oh yeah, I'm only taking 2. Right? It's just sort of, I'm like, oh, whoa, am I looked at the stupid guy now? Or is there something wrong with me that I'm not taking AP physics? Another standpoint of that is even during college acceptance season, probably one of the most stressful times. It sounds super nerdy, but that like March to April, that window, everyone is sort of getting their college admittance letters. And then it's not even the fact that they're private. Everyone's like sharing it, posting it on Facebook, social media, and there's an incredible amount of shame that you might feel if you didn't get into college that someone else got into, or if you didn't get into your first choice or second choice or third choice. I think that's where the buildup is in high school. At least in my high school, it was just from freshman year, it was build up to what college are you getting into, and everything that you do, the APs you take, the classes that you take, the friends that you surround yourself with, the grades that you get, all just result in what college are you getting into. And I think that's why there was so much weight put on like this peer pressure. So the best thing that I could possibly do for myself in certain points is whenever someone would have like an academic conversation. By the way, it was even small things like, what'd you get on that final? Oh, I got an 85. Oh, I got a 92. I got this. Was to not share my grade. I didn't tell anybody about it. The only people that knew were my parents, and even they didn't know most of it. So I kept most of my grades to myself. I didn't share. If some people were like, oh, and even after tests, by the way, everyone would be like, well, what'd you put on answer number 16, 17? I'd be like, look, I don't know. I don't remember. I'm done. Let's go play some basketball, right? So having those very, very clear boundaries, like my friends are my friends, and we study together, we're studying together. But after that test is done, after the grades are out, I'm having a very, very clear boundary. Like, I'm not sharing anything with you. I don't want to hear from you about what your grades are. I don't really care. If you get a grade, you get a grade. If I get a grade, I get a grade. And I think it made a big difference for me. And I know some of my friends who really struggled with it, really had a hard time establishing those boundaries. And we're also ones to openly share their grade and see that grade information back. And again, avoiding those feelings of guilt, shame, were really important to me, at least, being in that. I know it's not easy to avoid comparisons because those conversations happen all the time, but understand that sometimes the friends that you surround yourself with, the people that you surround yourself with, can also significantly impact your level of stress. And this is it, again, I think the movies, the pictures have it wrong because they talk about one type of peer pressure. There's a totally different peer pressure that goes totally down the wayside.
I'll say the high school that I went to, it was definitely more the movie type than what Akshay is describing. By sharing that, I mean like it might seem like the norm, right? Like wherever you went to high school or where you're attending high school, it might seem like the norm of a high school life. But in reality, there's actually a spectrum of high school life. Right? In my high school, we actually talk about which club you go to. Like I was in band, so I spent a lot of time in band, like really enjoying the band and really taking like AP classes for fun. Like for my clients in the Bay Area, they're like, wait, what? Like you got into UC Berkeley and wait, what? Like how many AP did you take? And let's not talk about that. So just understand that whatever happening in your high school is not the norm, right?
Exactly.
It's a small pool of people that are very competitive.
Exactly, 100%. I love what you said. It's not the norm. It's not what, I mean, there are some colleges and environments where it still feels very high schooly, but this is not going to be the rest of your life. It sounds like such a cliche, but 4 years of your life in high school are going to go by like that. And the decisions that you make in high school are not necessarily decisions that are going to significantly alter the course of your life, especially small decisions like what AP did you take? You know, or what grade did you get in English? I don't remember what grade I got. I don't even know my GPA in high school anymore, you know? But back then, it was like the most important thing for me because that's what it was for everyone else around me. this grade that I got on my AP Physics final was life or death. And I think putting it into perspective now, I look back on it, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I focused on that.
Yeah, and a lot of my clients also talk about like, if I don't get this AP chemistry, I don't get an A in it, I won't get into a good college, and then my life will be ruined.
Yeah. It's such a common narrative that happens all the time. Well, on that note, tip number 2 I have is to AP or not AP. And I think when I grew up in Mission San Jose, it was almost like a guarantee that you do APs. Like you should. It wasn't a you can. It was a you should be doing an AP. The minute you go to junior year or senior year, you should be doing 5 APs junior year, maybe another 5 or 6 senior year. It doesn't even matter what APs you're taking, just take them. I saw students who would just be like grab bag of APs and just put them on their schedule. For me, I took one important AP, and that was AP Psychology. And that's what drew me to my field right now. Every other AP I took, maybe AP Bio, I like that class, but every other AP I took, totally 100% meaningless for me. But I remember my intentions when I was taking it was, this is gonna look for college, and everyone else is doing it too, right?
Yeah.
And both of them, actually everyone else was doing it, that was true. But this is good for college, totally not true. It was a myth that I told myself that everyone else was telling themselves. I took so many APs, or enough, to get me to get so many credits in college, and I graduated at 3 years. That was a perk, I guess. But in terms of was it worth it? No. I mean, I was still in college for 4 years. I just finished all my classes and I slacked off for the 4th year. But at the same time, like an AP is a class that you feel like you want to do. I took AP Psychology because I thought it'd be interesting and I got a lot out of it. I took AP Calculus because everyone else was doing it. I didn't get a lot out of it, right? So you understand your intentions behind taking an AP class. Your parents might be saying, so-and-so is doing an AP, you should do it. But sometimes parents don't really understand what an AP course even is. It is far, far, far better to take I feel weird saying this, a regular course, a non-AP course, and get a good grade and not stress out, than to take an AP course, throw your back out, and work all night trying to get a B or an A. And it's just a lot. And another important tip, and something that some of my friends did, my brother also did this, you can take an AP exam without taking the AP class. So if you want to get those college credits, study on your own if you really want to. Take it on your own. Sometimes teachers make the AP course even more difficult than they have to be. And you do not have to be in the AP class to take the test. Take the test, study on your own, take a community college course in the summer if you want to, which are far easier, I think, than school classes that Mission had. So do that on your own. But I would say in a nutshell, take APs that you like. Make it your choice. Don't let other people choose it for you.
To put things in context, my high school didn't even offer AP Psychology. There was only like a small list of class that were offered for AP. And growing up, like AP was just for fun. Like I took calculus A, B, and BC because I was great at math. But then guess what? I didn't even get to use them in college because I majored in social welfare.
You use so much calculus in social welfare, right?
So much. Yeah, it really helped me understand the world, right?
Yeah.
But I took it for fun and I really enjoyed it, right? But hearing some of my clients' experience right now, it's like I'm already taking like 3 AP and 1 honor. Should I add on another AP? I'm like, are you gonna sleep?
Who wants to sleep? But Margaret, your attitude in which you took the APs is super important. I think that's the attitude that I wish I had, right? Taking APs that I want to take, that I would like to take, that I'm curious about. What an AP really is a glimpse onto maybe the intensity and the depth of what a college course looks like. And that's it. So me taking AP Psychology was like I actually learned exactly what my intro psychology course did in college. So I really liked it. I got so much information out of that. But you're right. I took BC Calc, and I'm like, do I need BC Calc? No. Yeah, I was good at math. Did I like it? No. Not at all. And I never used it after that. Absolutely never used it. But I think you mentioned an important thing that leads me to number 3, sleep. I'm going to sound like an old fart here for a second, but sleep, diet, and exercise, super, super, duper, duper important. These are 3 skills, and I consider them skills because I think we have to like develop a habit around all 3 of them. And they're important to establish before you get to college, because the minute you get to college, you're sort of on your own. Even if you're commuting from home or anything like that, we're a lot more responsible, I guess, for the way we sleep, how much exercise we get, how much diet we get. Luckily, I went to college in Irvine, a huge campus. I got a lot of exercise just walking to and from classes, so that was great. But that was the first time I actually developed like an exercise routine, going to the gym, taking walks, going on hikes. First time I also developed a sleeping routine, because before I didn't realize how much just having my family around me created my sleep routine, right? My parents would sleep by a certain time, and then it was lights out. The way my parents raised us was sort of like a jail cell, right? I mean, it wasn't that bad. But we would have like lights out time. If my light was on, they would get super pissed off. So it wouldn't happen. I would have to have my lights off. But in college, my roommates, everyone was up at like 3 a.m. and I had a class at 8 a.m. right? So I had to learn to be responsible. And one thing I was really grateful for is the fact that my parents did that like lights out routine. Because that way I got that 8 hours of sleep every night. My brain was somewhat functional. It's already only at 2% functionality anyway, but it was at least functional enough for me to be in school. I do a lot of talks at different high schools. I actually went back to my own high school to do a small talk on sleep hygiene. But I think more and more there's more research coming out that bedtimes are later and later and later for high school youth right now. So my year was probably like 12 a.m. and now it's getting closer to like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. And think about it, if we're sleeping at 3 a.m., I'm waking up at like 8 or 7, I'm getting 5 hours of sleep. And while it's true that a lot of younger folks don't need as much sleep as we need when we get older, 4 to 5 hours of sleep is not enough. And how much sleep we're getting has direct results on how much anxiety, how much stress, depression, all those mood, mental health issues that we face throughout the day. Sleep is super important for us, how we process our stress, how we process our cortisol, how we process memories. By the way, cramming never works either. So you're cramming for a test, not gonna work. You're pulling an all-nighter, guess what? The stuff that you're gonna try and remember when you're trying to take the test, not gonna happen. So try and prioritize that. I know that sometimes we have to like get a planner together, try and sort out different activities and different tasks. But if you want to keep a consistent bedtime, I think it'll go a long way, an absolute long way.
Yeah, and usually I remind my clients like it's much better to study smart than study hard.
Yes.
Right? Like if you're cramming like 10 hours of study hour, maybe those 10 hours can be reduced to 5 hours if you have a good night's sleep.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention the diet, right? Eat. I avoid words like eating like healthy or unhealthy. I think eat right. Eat your meals, right? Try not to skip meals. Try not to avoid meals in any way. Eat intuitively, whatever intuitive means to you. I usually give a lot of my patients like a hunger fullness scale, just talking about like how hungry you feel and how full you feel, and the goal isn't to ever be at 0 in terms of how hungry you feel, so that you're like, oh, I need to eat, I'm starving, but it's also not to be at like a 10. You don't want to be so gorged up that you feel like throwing up, right? So just listen to your body more. I think it's hard, and I realize, when you're in high school, there's so many things going on, so many different needs pulling you different places, from your parents, your family, to friends. But I think give yourself some time to like focus on you, whatever you need. And I think sleep, diet, and exercise, doing those 3 and taking care of yourself in that way shows you that you're important too. I think we tend to do that in small ways. People talk about self-compassion as this thing where we could tell ourselves that we're worthy and we're valuable. What better way to show it than taking care of our bodies?
I usually explain to my clients, like, if you're studying without taking a break or without sleeping or without eating, it's like you're driving a car without giving it fuel.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Even Tesla needs to be charged.
Yeah, eventually you're going to be pushing it at the side of the highway, right? It's not going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So leads me to tip number 5. Sort of relates to other things here, but and this is going to sound like a cliche. Follow your values and your passions, not what other people are doing. Your values, your passions are for you to decide. No one else, not even me, can tell you what your values and your passions are, right? And high school is a time to do that. And I realize that sometimes we can choose things because my best friend is doing it, or a group of my friends are doing it. And here's where assertiveness comes in. If you don't enjoy it, you have 100% the right to say, you know, this isn't really for me. I'm going to step away for a second. And I'm not talking about like heavy things like substances or drugs. I'm talking about things as small as, like, I don't know, robotics club, or like a volunteer opportunity, or Circle K, or anything like that, right? If you don't like it, that's okay. You do not have to stick through it because someone else is doing it. I'll give you an example. I was in debate. I was in policy debate. And I did it because a few of my closest friends were doing it. And they were super great at it. And I'm like, okay, maybe I should. I was like, I'm not doing anything extracurricular here. I should probably do that. And while I think that was a great way for me to start into it, about like halfway through, I was like, this is horrible. Like, I hate this. This is not great. But in that moment, it felt like I was like pledging a fraternity, where I was like, I already did this. I'm already halfway there. Let me just see it through. And I stuck with it for like a year and a half, maybe, until I graduated. And it was probably torture. I still have my like debate files. I have like this gigantic container of debate files, and I don't even want to look at it anymore. So if I could have used that 1.5 years to do something else, something that I felt more passionate about, I would have probably done that. And to be fair, I'm not a debater. Like, I don't like arguments or debate. I don't like policy. I'm not anywhere near like a legal profession. So I think in the same vein, if I could go back to past me and say, hey, actually, just step away. You don't have to do debate. I would have done that. I would have loved to have someone tell me that. So same thing I'll tell you, like, it's okay to jump into something. If you don't like it, say no.
But then there's always this, well, for the Asian value, right? If you start something, don't just give it up, right?
Yeah. Well, saying no, I think assertiveness in that capacity is so, like, not in the vein of a lot of Asian households and individuals, right? Because sometimes, I'll speak for myself, saying no feels like I'm letting someone else down. Like, I don't feel like I could give myself permission to say no assertively. Challenge yourself to say no in small ways. It's not necessarily like you're saying no to hanging out with someone, you know? You're just trying to say, like, I deserve to follow what I feel like I can do. You know, and I know it can be really hard to say no to family members, but this is your way of listening to yourself, connecting to how you feel, and giving yourself permission. It's really, really hard, but this is, again, one of those skills where the younger you try and develop it, easier and easier it gets. I'm in positions now where, like, I'm in a large organization, I'm in a hospital, and I wouldn't be able to survive if I didn't say no to stuff, right? Other people would be telling me to do everything. So standing up for what I believe in, standing up for what I believe is right, for my own values, and I think that's such an important attribute or quality to possess, because it's not something that was taught to me by my family. No one did it in my family. This is my, like, bicultural identity, you know, like, growing up to understand my American side. I have a lot of my white friends say no to everything, say no all the time, even to something small, you know, like, I don't know, like, hey, can I have some fries? No. And I'm out here giving all my food away to people.
Yeah, I think you mentioned a really great point, is that, you know, saying no is not like a yes, it's not a black and white situation. There's a whole spectrum of, you know, saying no. So saying no to one thing doesn't mean you have to start saying no to everything. Exactly. Right? Sometimes I tell my client, if you don't assert your own value, if you don't make a choice for yourself, someone else is gonna jump in and make it for you, and you're not gonna like it.
Yes. There's this belief we can have where we could believe if we self-sacrifice, then things are going to work out. Things are going to get better. But the only thing that happens when we self-sacrifice too much is eventually the one person that we neglect is ourselves, and we start to feel the impact of that. And as scary as it could be to say no, the fear that we're thinking that would happen if we say no, the chance of that actually happening is so low, right? I could say if I leave debate, all my friends are going to hate me. They're going to think I'm a quitter. They're going to stop hanging out with me. The chance of that happening, if I look back and I'm like, no, my friends, I've been friends with them for so long. They're not going to be like, oh, Akshay's weird because he left debate. No, they would have been like, oh, totally get it, it's fine. I'd still be able to hang out with them. I'd still be able to see them outside. Maybe I meet new friends with any new opportunities I get. You know, there's sometimes we tell ourselves the worst case scenario and we believe that 100%, and it stops us from doing something that feels right to us. Moving on to the next topic here. This is very, very geared towards Indian culture specifically, but honestly, it could be to all sorts of cultures. But this is the culture that I grew up in. Indian culture and families have really, really small boundaries. Really, really, what I call permeable boundaries. It's sort of like having like a tiny rope and saying that's a boundary, right? It's not like a wall. Families talk all the time. Sorry, you were going to say something?
Yeah, can you define for the audience what is boundary? What does that even mean?
It's a very good question. I'm going to try and answer that because I know it's a general definition here. A boundary is any sort of personal barrier that separates my feelings, my needs from someone else's. It's a metaphorical barrier. It doesn't have to be a physical wall, right? It's the trust and faith that I have that my feelings and my wants are going to be separate from others. Unfortunately, within like an Indian household or culture, it's really hard to separate that. It's hard to separate where I begin and I end, and where one of my family members begins and ends. It's a lot more permeable in that way. For example, I'm going to do a stereotype here. If I have a feeling of I want to go into engineering, it's hard for me to really separate that from, oh, my parents want me to be an engineer, you know, or they want me to do this. I remember I didn't really have a room with my brother growing up, but there was no space, physical space too, right? I couldn't just like close my door and be like, I'm alone. I can't do that. If I close my door, my parents are like, what's wrong? Is everything okay? Why are you closing your door? I can't do that. So that's a physical boundary. Emotional boundary can also happen where it can feel awkward for myself to see, like, I have my own emotions. Like, it's okay for me to feel sad. It's okay for me to feel anxious. Whereas, like, if I feel a certain way, maybe I have someone in my family come and tell me, like, what's going on? Why are you doing this? You shouldn't be feeling that way, right? So same way, Indian culture specifically has a lot of issues with boundary setting. And understand, this isn't necessarily a solution, but just more of like an understanding and awareness that everything you do, say, or get involved in, your family or your parents might know about. Even if you think they won't know about it, right? For example, when me and my friends did something, somehow he told his mom, and then his mom talked to my mom, and my mom, when I came home, like, yeah, I heard you just did this. I'm like, how do you know about that, right? Families talk, boundaries are so loose. So I started building up my awareness. I'm like, okay, wait, look, I guess I don't really have space. I don't have my own space here. But I think I have to ask myself, what is my own safety? What does my space look like that I can still create? Just because the boundaries are loose doesn't necessarily mean I have zero control over anything, right? So I would have space in music, band. I was also a band geek. So I started playing my own music. I started listening to music. I would go on my own walks. Have my own volunteer opportunities, my own space, places where my family or even my friends that were talking to their family members weren't involved in. So find out what your space looks like and try and create that for yourself. I think it can go a long way. Understanding the generational differences between your parents and yourself is important. For example, my parents are immigrant parents. They went to school in India. I think a lot of households now that are first or second generation, your parents did not go to the same school environments as you are going to right now. Your parents might have a situation, especially if they're Indian parents, probably went to school where they didn't have a choice in terms of what they wanted to do. It was dictated for them either by the school or by their family or their parents. And they believe that that's how things are supposed to be. This is totally not the case here at all. Actually, in American culture, it's encouraged that you make mistakes. My friends switched majors like 4 times. If I switched major once, I'd be like, what am I doing? I should know what I'm doing, right? And there's a belief sometimes that we could get ingrained by our family and by our parents, by a lot of immigrant households, where I have to figure everything out by like freshman year of high school. So that might be coming from your family, by the household that you're raised in. At the same time, understand that, you know, when your parents tell you to do something, and this isn't a solution to it, I don't necessarily agree necessarily with parents being a certain level of pressure or forcing kids to do certain things, but they're coming from their knowledge. They're coming from where they're coming from. And that's the limited amount of knowledge they have on schools and education. And I think this is where my last point comes in around, if there's room for you as a younger generation, as someone who is in the current environment, to educate or let your parents or family know, like, this is actually different, the way we do things here. I understand where this is coming from. I understand where your knowledge is coming from. At the same time, this is different. And schools, high schools, I know Mission had this. We had academic counselors for this reason. And a lot of schools now have that. And the academic counselors aren't necessarily for the students, they're there for the parents, because the parents could say, I think my child needs to do this, this, and this, and this, and that. And you could talk to your counselor and say, like, hey, my parents want me to do this and I don't really want to do it. Can you help talk to them? And they could take that bullet for you. They could say, all right, I'll talk to your mom, I'll talk to your dad about it, we'll schedule up a meeting.
Using your parents' language.
Exactly, using your parents' language, and it's another adult that can talk to them and give them information about, you know, this is actually different the way we do it. They actually have a choice. So I remember in high school, I had that like class schedule where I could like fill out which class I want to take, and my mom and dad were like, why are you doing that class? Why are you doing that? You're not supposed to do that. I'm like, we can do it here. I can choose what I want. And they're like, really? We couldn't do that. And then I had to educate them about it. Luckily, they didn't like force me or pressure me to do it, but it was that moment where I had to be like, look, I want to do AP Psychology. I want to do this class. I could do something else, but this is what I want, and I actually have the choice. Number 7 is balance. Find balance and whatever that looks like. Choose extracurriculars that match your interests. Here's a big myth. There is no one extracurricular or a group of extracurriculars or organizations that look good for college. It doesn't exist. In high school, for me, everyone did like DECA or debate or something like that. It's far better for you to find one thing that you are totally 100% passionate about, that you pursue to the fullest, than finding 1,000 things that everyone else is doing that looks good, right? Find something that matches your interests, find something that matches your passion. There is no one path. Which leads me to my last tip for parents. Parents, I'm looking directly at you here. There's no one path to success for college. Or even college in general might not be that path to success. There's no one path to success in general. So there's a lot of research that's shown up around the importance of gap years. And kids who take a gap year to go to work or to pursue something else, a volunteer opportunity, actually show a higher signs of success in college and longevity even after college for success. So if your child wants to take a gap year, if they want to go to community college and then go to a 4-year institution, that's great. You know, support whatever that path to success is. Path to success doesn't just involve UC Berkeley or Stanford, right? If 2 colleges were the only ways people could be successful, then we wouldn't have other people who didn't go to college to be successful. I know those are only small handfuls here, but I always put it this way. It is far easier and far better to get better grades and less stress in a less academically competitive environment than to try and stand out with all that stress, all that competition in a rigorous academic institution like UC Berkeley or other things. No knock on people who go to Berkeley. I know, Margaret, you went to Berkeley. No knock on people who went to academically competitive institutions. I also went to a UC, which was competitive at times. But it's not really the path. It's not, there's no one path. I know a lot of parents, at least in the Bay Area, just push their kids to say, go to a UC. UCs look great. It's not all about UCs. It's a diploma. I got a piece of paper.
Yeah, like I hear so much stigma about going to state school or, you know, going to community college. But then I keep telling some of the parents that I work with, no one ever asked me about my, you know, my diplomas up there. Like I have to put it in my office because no one cared. And I worked so hard for it, right?
I don't even know where my diploma is at. I think I left it somewhere. I don't know. It's gathering dust somewhere. Yeah, I agree. It's a piece of paper that we get, the knowledge, not, again, don't want to knock college. College is great. I learned a lot from college that's beyond just education. But where I went didn't really depend on like the academic rigor of this university. I went to Irvine because I loved the campus. I wanted to go to sunny Southern California. And that's honestly what mattered to me more than just, oh yeah, this campus has this rank in the US college rankings, right? It doesn't really matter at that point.
You mean the employer doesn't care? Like you mean your first job, they didn't ask you where you went to college?
First question they asked me was, what rank was your undergrad university? Yeah, no, they don't care. No one cares about that. And again, finding a major for you, finding the right major that you're passionate about, finding a campus that you can connect to, like location and ambiance, all those, way more important. Even diversity and cultural inclusion, right? Finding a campus that speaks to you, that has like a multicultural center if you're a student of color, finding other organizations that you can support or get involved in. Those are far more important than, is this the top 5 university, you know? I know plenty of people, by the way, one of my specialties is working with young adults, and I worked in a lot of college counseling environments, and a lot of the students that I would see who necessarily didn't want to go there, but were told to go there, end up leaving eventually, or are so stressed out that their grades suffer or their academic involvement suffers. And it's not worth it. It's a lot easier, it's a lot more, I would recommend it, I'll use the word, to be less stressed and succeed than to push yourself through the ringer and try and succeed.
Yeah, I think part of it is to get out of that survivor mentality, right?
Exactly.
I call it the survivor mentality because we're prepping for something that might or might not happen, right? We're prepping for our lifelong success, but at the same time, there are so many roads to your success.
There's so many checkpoints. There isn't just one checkpoint. If you fail that checkpoint, our life isn't screwed. I failed so many checkpoints in my life.
Yeah, and when you look back, you don't probably remember what those checkpoint was.
Not at all. Absolutely not.
Like you said, the AP class that you didn't do well, like do you even remember, right? I don't remember I don't even remember my GPA.
You know, I remember one class that I had in high school, and that was because of the teacher, and that teacher was wonderful. And the class was a normal English class, regular English, I hate saying normal, regular non-AP, non-honors English class. And that teacher was fantastic. And the books that she made us read, she made us even write like poems and stuff like that. And I actually use that class to like write my rap. I do a lot of music, I write rap and poetry now. And I took it from that class. And if I'd taken a different class, like an AP literature or an honors English class, I wouldn't have gotten that experience. So I cherish those moments.
Yeah, same for me. My memory of high school is actually also with the English teacher, English class that, you know, I was making a lot of, you know, conversation with him about college, and he was actually the one that wrote my letter of recommendation for college. And it was so much more important to kind of demonstrate who I am as a person as a whole than just, you know, Margaret, you know, GPA.
We are more than our grades.
Exactly.
But yeah, those are my 8 tips for success. 1 for parents. if parents are
Yeah.
watching this.
Those are really great tips as we're, getting ready for another school year, getting ready for college, right? It's really important to start thinking about what do we want, right?
Exactly.
I don't think we're asked what we want in our life a lot, right? But this is your life,
Yeah.
right?
And I realize that certain households we don't have the privilege to even think about what we want, because what we want is dictated for us a lot of times. But eventually at a certain point in time in your life, and I realize that if you're living with your family, family's still paying your bills and probably paying for college at times, we have very little power and control over what we could do for what we want. At a certain point in time, you are going to have more power, more control over what you feel like you want in your life. And it probably will happen after high school, more than likely than not.
Yeah, and I remember, Akshay, you were telling me before, right? High school is the hardest so far in your life.
It was a ringer. But if I didn't have, let's say, my brother going through it beforehand, it would give me like important tips like what I'm sharing right now, like APs aren't everything. I would have like suffered through high school. And I learned to not take things too seriously, probably to a fault where I was like slacking off more than I should have, at least throughout high school. But I kind of took it easy, and I don't regret a thing. I think it would have still led me back here. I could have chosen to put myself through the grinder, and I like what you said, survival mentality. I could have put myself through survival in high school when I'm 18 years old.
Yeah.
And landed up exactly where I'm at right now, or went through high school and just relaxed, slept, took care of myself. I mean, that wasn't great, but I tried to prioritize myself whenever I could, and I would have still been here.
Yeah. And also academic success is actually a marathon, not a sprint. Right? You can't just sprint through, 4 years of college and expect to just like, taste the fruit of your hard work. You're gonna collapse if that's the mentality you're going for.
Yeah, and well, we were both in school for over 10 years. That's huge marathon.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Akshay, for sharing all those great tips.
Thank you so much for having me on. It was a pleasure to be here and share some tips.
Yeah, we'll definitely invite you for another episode on other topics. Akshay has
sure.
a lot of wisdom to share with us.
Very little. I didn't take too many AP classes, so I don't have
I took wisdom. 3 and I failed my AP environment.
You had AP environment?
Yeah, I didn't even know why. Like, it sounds very cool, so I took it and I failed. I think I got a 3.
Oh, that's not fail at all. That's actually pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
All right, I'll take that.
A 3 is a pass.
Okay, I'll take that. See, I don't even remember. And I'm not in calculus or environment. I haven't touched any of those material after high school at all.
AP environment is probably important though, with everything going on. Yeah, for the environment. The environment's important. Probably more important than calculus, I think.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I learned from high school is critical thinking is so much more important than anything else, right?
Agreed. Yeah.
Being able to articulate why you take some class, why you did what you did, instead of like, because it looks great on paper, because it shows when you're writing that personal statement, you don't think they're reading, right?
Exactly. I think a lot of times when I would ask myself, I never asked myself why I would do it, but if I look back on it, most of it would be like, I don't know, because my friend's doing it, or I don't know, I guess I have nothing else to do, not good enough reasons.
Your time is so valuable, spend it on something that really matters. Yes,
like having fun.
Being in band.
being in band, yeah. I do not miss band camp in like the sweltering summer, wearing the full band uniforms. Those were torture.
But you know what? Those extracurricular activity actually looks pretty good.
Yeah, and it was quite fun.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Akshay.
Bye, Margaret. See ya.
Bye.
So that's it from me and Dr. Naresh. If you've learned something new from this video, or if you have other tips for academic success, please leave a comment below so that we can all learn together. This channel is all about helping you to gain more insight on psychology to create a life with more inner peace and emotional freedom. More videos like this every Wednesday. Be sure to hit subscribe, and I'll see you next Wednesday, same place, same time. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.